Well, hello, good morning, and good morning, America. I know it's 9:30 Pacific. I know on the East Coast, everybody's having some lunch. Maybe it's 12:30 over there. But guess what? This is Vinney and Bo show. We come live to you every Friday at 5 channels simultaneously in the YouTube channel, 4 Facebook channels, and also possibly LinkedIn. We are having still some difficulty with the StreamYard. That's the software we use. And they are trying to tell us, yes, we'll get you in the LinkedIn broadcasting also simultaneously. Again, we come to you live about Vinney and Bo show, which is about real estate. It's about loans. It's about growing the business to the next level, all those great things. So thank you for joining, and please let us know where you are from in the chat. Put your name and let us know where you're from, and get ready for any kind of questions you might have. Again, this is your host, Vinney, and my co-host, Bo, right there. Bo, how are you, brother? How
I'm
you doing?
doing. I'm doing well. Just happy to another Friday, and the weeks seem to go really fast. Ever since COVID, they go even faster. You would think they would be slower, but it seems that as we're adapting to using Zoom, and we're actually almost learning a whole new world to be more productive. And so I feel like I'm connecting with people more often than I would normally. So it's each week is learning something new and figuring out. I'm learning about all these tools that I didn't know about and softwares and things. So I think, the way of the future is here. And I was just reading about all these retail stores shutting down, and that was going to happen, I think, anyways, right? The writing's on the wall with what's going on in the world. But what COVID did was COVID just supercharged that. In maybe 5 years, it would have taken place without COVID. Because of COVID, now you're seeing, Victoria's Secret stores shutting down, all these big retail companies shutting down. So there's going to be a big movement, a big push to repurpose these properties. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the retail space. But, I'm excited. It seems that people are out buying and selling property right now like crazy. So it's busy.
So true, Bo. And again, I definitely want to, say the same thing. I mean, last 4 months have been spectacular for Monil brand of companies that we have started building last 6-7 years back. 14 years in the business in multifamily. It's been tremendous. And I think that's what really is all about, to take the lemon and make the lemonade out of it. A lot of people have gone into a cocoon. They have gone into a, depression and things like that. But a lot of people have really emerged as better problem solver, I should say, and expanding their horizons and businesses. And people are diversifying, like you said, from stock market. Stock market is so high. I just don't know. I feel there is going to be a crash coming. I mean, some of the things we are seeing, we're going to see their effect in third quarter and fourth quarter, right? The loss of productivity and everything. The jobless rate was great. This morning it's 10.41. All right, man. Here, everybody was predicting it's going to be totally gone to 20%, 25%. Look at YouTube. A lot of proponents of pessimism were talking about this whole USA is going to blow up. And, we were talking about the economic. I know coronavirus is still affecting us, and it will, and look at the cases are kind of declining. But I think we are not really adhering to the standards. I really have a pet peeve on that. I mean, people are dying because of some people not being as considerate as they should be. And so on. So I'm really excited to have a great guest with us today, right there. Alex, welcome, buddy. How are you?
Thank you, Vinney and Bo, for having me on today. It's great to expand into new platforms. We're big proponents of investing in real estate here at Advanta. That's the primary focus of the majority of what our clients do. Throughout about, I think last count, about 1.5 billion of assets. About 60% of that is invested in real estate with our clients. So
oh wow!
It's cool to see, and it's really interesting to see the trends that have popped up throughout this since March with coronavirus. It's really been kind of interesting to see the wide snapshot that we get here of everything from large multifamily to single family to lending, just to everything, to see where trends are going. So thanks for having me on today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Alex. I want to formally introduce you. Thank you so much. We have known Advanta for some time now, about maybe year and a half. And a lot of my investors have worked with you guys, and I'm so happy. That's Alex Perny. I would like to introduce Alex, actually having worked with Advanta since 2012, 8 years. Alex Perny is a 8-year veteran, of course, of self-directed IRAs. So we're going to be talking about self-directed IRAs, retirement plans today, guys. Again, everybody joining us, please let us know where you are from, your name, and please ask us questions in the chat room. We would love to answer them. IRAs and alternative assets. Throughout his adventure, he has worked with clients on over 1,200 different deals. 1,200, that's a lot, ranging from single family homes, multifamily partnerships, private securities, and mortgage lending. His special knowledge and industry experiences enable him to educate clients and investors on self-directed IRAs. So that's going to be our main topic today, and we're going to ask some very, very good questions and expand the knowledge, because lots of hundreds of people watch us after the broadcast, and it's always recorded live. As you all know, you can ask us any kind of questions, and just how powerful these tax advantage accounts can be. Now, welcome, Alex, and kind of tell us a little bit depth of, you're in Florida, but your company is able to help clients all over USA. Is that right?
Correct. And we work, throughout the U.S., all 50 states. We have clients that invest internationally as well. If you have an IRA, you can really deploy it wherever you'd like. Just this past week, I'm working with a client on acquiring some property in Belize. So I've done property purchases, throughout Central and South America, from Colombia, Panama, Nicaragua, Belize, United States, Canada. So it's really wherever you find the deal. If you have an IRA, we can get get something structured where you can pursue these deals.
Excellent. Can I read some statistic very lately that $28.4 trillion is in retirement funds. Could you give us some idea, what that big number is? Majority of that is in the Wall Street, right? What I hear, right?
Sure. Yeah. When you start throwing out numbers that have 4 commas in them, it's always a little bit tantalizing to figure out where exactly that is. Now, that number is representative of a few different things. It's representative of IRAs, so the individual accounts people hold, 401ks. It's large pensions, like you'd see with United Auto Workers and large unionized labor forces. So although it is a very large number, it does give a good idea of just the fact that there's a lot of money in these types of plans, and it's ultimately up to the individual as to what happens with those. And what we try to promote is the fact that you have more options than just, like you said, Vinney, of just sticking it in the stock market. A lot of that, I would say, we don't have exact figures, but our best guess would be probably about 5 to 7% of the whole market is truly self-directed. So people are doing alternative investments. The other big chunk of that money is just stocks, bonds, mutual funds.
So true. And again, a lot of our audience is very, very educated, Alex, but definitely what happens is the big boys, I say big boys, like the Vanguards, the Schwabs, the T. Rowe Price. I'm just thinking about, and other people. Oh my gosh, I've accounts with all of them. They don't let you invest into syndications, like in real estate, for example, right? Or alternative, investments. And
yeah, absolutely, Vinney. So when you're looking at that from the perspective of especially multifamily, I know that's what you focus on. When it comes to syndicated deals, when it comes to joint ventures, limited partnerships, those investments are allowable in an IRA. So when you go to someone like a T. Rowe Price or a TD Ameritrade, all that they are allowable, it's not what that company specializes in doing. The person you may talk to may say, oh, you can't do that, or you have to take the money out. That's part of a lack of education just on, and no fault of that person that told you that. They just don't understand it's not something we offer. So we operate in that niche of allowing for those types of investments, those limited partnerships, those syndications and things to occur within that tax advantage umbrella of an IRA or
Totally, totally. And I do want to let the audience know that, of course, they could invest in REITs, right? That's real estate investment trust. Of course, they are very big, bears out there. They are on the stock market and all, and they could invest in that, right? But those returns you cannot control. But in the self-directed arena, you can control where you put your money, your retirement. Is that right?
Correct. That's exactly correct. And to the point of REITs, those are publicly traded. They're highly illiquid. You get into them, you can't really get out of them. We do see some clients doing private REITs that aren't traded on a public market. Pre-capitalized REITs we do see occasionally, not a whole lot. But if that is something that I would say more people that are interested in syndications are probably the ones looking at private non-capitalized REITs. Those are also something that you can do in a self-directed IRA.
Sure, sure. Bo, buddy? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been an advocate of self-directed vehicles for a long time. I mean, you can see the benefit of being able to do transactions tax deferred, right, or tax free if it's a Roth, right? So the advantages are great. I mean, I think more and more people are catching on to this, and there's a lot of people out there right now that have worked at a company as an employee and have this like hanging 401k that they're not doing anything with, right? That they could potentially self-direct. Maybe they're getting terrible returns, but they just don't know yet that they're able to take that $50, $100, $200,000 and self-direct it. Right now, it's just sitting out there doing nothing for them, right? So we got to educate people, and then they can learn that they can actually invest in syndications. Or like Vinney, remember you did a deal with Mario and I, and he was our gap lender on a fix and flip deal, right? He lent the down payment in the rehab funds, and we had a hard money loan first, and he went in the second position, and then he got an equity share in that property. So there's so many ways to utilize these funds, and I think that it's just a matter of people, building a network where they can, feel comfortable investing in these types of transactions. And so I think there's also now your company, Alex. Some companies allow for, like, if Vinney were to invest in, say, I had a startup company, and we did, something in fintech for real estate, he could actually invest in the LLC with his self-directed, or are you guys only asset-based, like real estate-based?
No, yeah, we see a lot of that. So, to both of your points that you indicated, the gap funding and equity participation type deals are ones that I find really cool. We have a lot of clients that do that. But to the point of the investment into an LLC, let's say it's just a small multi-member LLC, 3 or 4 members, you can absolutely bring an IRA into that, and we do allow for our clients to do that. So if you wanted to have a more pointed like investment vehicle that you're going to use to invest into something like real estate fintech, like you mentioned, we will allow for our clients to hold those types of private memberships within their IRA for those types of returns and qualifications.
That's really good. That's really good. And I'm curious, Vinney, like in your real estate syndications, what are you seeing as far as how many of your investors are using IRA funds right now?
That's a good point, Bo. Actually, I have very limited, almost, let's say 200 investors who have millions of dollars invested in our syndications, but they came out with cash, they tested and proven record, then they opened up their retirement funds and everything. So majority of them have both now, cash, which they had, savings, and then a lot of 401ks, IRAs, Roth IRAs, self-directed checkbook IRAs. That's another thing I think I heard a lot, about EQRP and all that. So you're right. I would say, Bo, maybe in the last 12 years that I've been raising money and buying deals, I don't know, maybe 34% is the number comes to my mind. That's 1/3 money is through retirement plans. Wow. And I remember some other syndicator was talking about 43% of the money is coming through retirement, self-directed, into and making great returns. Because, when you do REITs, right, Alex, how much are they giving? Like 6%, 8%? What do you think?
It's if you're lucky, if you're getting one that's paying out like that, certainly. And the big thing I always like to bring to people is the huge amount of tax savings. It's easy enough to say that, okay, well, I have this money coming in, I'm not paying taxes on it. But there's a bigger picture to that. when you can have money coming back in, if you're doing it personally, you have to, carve out a certain section for what you're owed in taxes. A lot of these times for syndications and partnerships, they're not withholding taxes out of anything they're paying out if it's on a K-1 or a 1099 to their investors. You're just getting a lump sum of cash, and it's up to you to, make sure that you have enough to pay your taxes at the end of the year or plan accordingly for that. Cool thing about the IRA is that, all of those funds coming in are non-taxable, at that point, whether it's a Roth or traditional makes no difference. You can get those funds, 100% of them redeployed into another deal that comes along immediately and not have to worry about holding back, 20, 15, whatever your tax liability might be. So that's one really cool point that I like to bring up is it doesn't matter if it's a Roth, it doesn't matter if it's a traditional SEP, simple 401k, you get that same tax exempt at the time of investment return. That's really important for reinvesting your returns.
I appreciate that. No, that's so true, Alex, what you're saying, because many times when we are putting cash outside the retirement plan, of course, you get the cash flows, right? We pay quarterly, but then you get the K1. K1 will give you negative, whatever, because of accelerated depreciation, which we do on real estate deals. So that way it's a passive loss. And a lot of our investors, doctors, attorneys, CPAs, entrepreneurs, they cannot write it off, right? They have to keep on accumulating or bat it against the passive income. But the active income and passive income cannot be combined. But in the Roth and in the self-directed route, what you're just saying, it's deferred, right? So they never have to pay taxes, but the money comes in. All these dividends or cash flows keep on coming. And when we sell the property and make 40% gain or 50% gain, that gain goes back into IRA too. So no capital gain tax. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. More to the point to drill down on that a little bit is that, when you have accelerated depreciation, when you're looking at, when you send out your K1 and you're informing your clients and the investors as to, what exactly you are doing with that, as far as what they can take as a loss or a carry forward, you don't have to worry about that with an IRA. You don't have to worry about the capital gains. It's just, it's even though it's a new way of investing for a lot of people, it simplifies your tax life immensely. You don't have to look at, if you're trading stocks, you don't have to look at tax lots. You don't have to look at your underlying basis or depreciation. It's just a cash on cash return, and then you can reinvest it, and then you only worry about taxes if it's a deferred account in retirement.
Totally. Please share with us, and so we have, as a syndicator, I very much know about the arm's length, right? They cannot invest into their own deals. So it's better for many of my clients and investors that they could invest into somebody else's deal. Can you kind of expand on that?
Absolutely. So with regard to IRAs, there are some rules. You can't buy or sell anything to yourself personally or what's called a disqualified individual. A disqualified individual is, look at your family tree, you go up and down and directly to your left, which would be your spouse. So spouses, you can't buy or sell anything to. You can't buy or sell anything to your children or your parents. Now, that's all well and good, but in the sense of syndications, if you set up a syndication, more often than not, you cannot use your own IRA funds to invest in it.
Right.
Or if your spouse did, or if your child did, you can't directly invest in those syndications. There are instances, though, depending on how you syndicate, whether it's under a Reg D or Reg A under the Jobs Act, where if it is a open solicitation and you're not getting any type of additional benefit from your IRA, you can potentially invest in that. I always refer people to check with an ERISA attorney or some type of syndication attorney on that point, because the answer is not always no. I've seen it happen in some different instances where they kind of blessed it and there was no issues with it. But those are more often than not, those are the rules that kind of govern the generalities of IRA.
Thank you.
Alex. So let's just take one of Vinney's syndications and some of his limited partners. Let's say they want to invest both from their cash in hand and also their IRA, two different entities. It's them personally investing as a limited partner. Can their IRA also invest in that same LP or same limited partnership as an LP?
Yeah, absolutely. So I see that framed in a few different ways. Typically, either it's the price per share, if it's broken out like that, might be too big for the IRA to take down by itself. If the syndication will allow for joint ownership, you can do it like that. Or if they just have like a dollar for dollar investment structure with it, you can come in together. You can bring personal cash and IRA cash directly into the same deal. The only thing you have to be careful with is that you have to make sure that you are not selling something that you personally own to your IRA. So if you're coming in new and your IRA is coming in new, that's fine. But if you already, let's say, had 30 shares and you wanted to bring your IRA in, you couldn't split out or bifurcate your own portion to your IRA. But if everything's coming in new into the syndication, it's not a problem.
Beautiful, beautiful. I know we have done that, Bo. Like I talked to my SEC attorneys. I know 7 of the top SEC attorneys in USA. I'm so glad, and they have also come on my show, and we have had contacts and all. So we do let our investors bring in cash, and the IRA. We set up 2 accounts, separate accounts within the LP structure, and then the cash flows go back into their accounts. But for the IRA, we deposit money into the IRA account. So it's separate. It's not combined. But for the qualification of their tier level of investment, we combine those 2 together to give them higher returns, because that's on our side, right? So their IRA also gets a higher return, and because we do tier investing, Alex, that's how we do it. We do it 100,000 investor, 200,000 investor, and 500,000 investor. Mm-hmm. So that way, they can get higher. Yeah.
Sure.
So Alex, so guys out there, guys and girls out there that are more active, people like Vinney, people that are flipping houses, that are always looking for investors or would like investors to participate in the projects. What have you seen that others are doing successfully to kind of harness all these people and educate them? Because a lot of people don't know about self-directed IRAs. I mean, it's starting to become more mainstream, but still, it's still maybe, I don't know, 20 or 25% of the, people with retirement accounts seem to know about self-directed. The rest, 70% of people don't know anything about. What are you seeing investors out there or active deal makers like Vinney and people like that doing to educate people on this and actually build a list of potential investors?
Yeah, that's really the question that is the main focus of our business at Advanta. Education is the big part of what we do. It's not so much of like the advertising so much as getting on things like this or hosting our own webinars and podcasts and things like that to educate people, because it's not something easy to explain. It's not terribly complicated, but you need to have someone initially explain to that knows what they're talking about. And then that person can go educate others. It's not hard, once you have the basic understanding. But, if you tell someone that's 55, that's changed jobs, like Vinney said, that had an old 401k, that, someone in passing says, hey, you can invest in real estate. Well, that can mean 90 different things. So the education is the big part. Most of the time, what I see is that it's a very organic thing. But to the most specific point to your question, it's stuff like this. It's Zoom calls, it's networking, it's going to events like Vinney hosts, it's going to things where you can actually get in front of people and let them know about it. But it's a tough one. I mean, that's what we spend the majority of our marketing dollars on, and a lot of our focus and time at Advanta is figuring out how to educate people, because it's the people that do it once, they get it, they know it, they see the advantage of it, they can go tell other people.
Let me ask.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you another question, and I was just wondering. So let's just say hypothetically, my father had $5 million in his IRA, and he was getting to the point where he was, he was on his deathbed hypothetically, and I was named as a beneficiary. I've heard something in the past about and let's just say I'm 40 years old. And so I'm named as the beneficiary of this SEP or Roth IRA. Is there a way? I've heard before, they called it a legacy IRA when it was inherited, that I could actually use those funds before I was of retirement age. Is that true, or do you know anything about that? I'm just curious.
Absolutely. There's been a lot of changes actually with that in this tax year. So to scale, let's go back to 2019 for a second. What you were saying, absolutely. What people like to call them was a stretch IRA. It's an inherited IRA, and people like to call it the stretch IRA, where you used to be able, if you received a IRA from your non-spouse, so in this case your father, you could take the payments out of. You had to take payments out of that IRA every year between your joint life expectancy. So you run it through a calculator, you figure out what your life expectancy is, factor it in with theirs, and you had to take a certain amount out. You didn't pay any penalties on that. You just got money that was potentially taxable every year. Now, the big change that just happened, and there again, so that did get to your point of you didn't have to pay that penalty. What just changed, there was a piece of legislation called the Secure Act. It changed a bunch of stuff with regard to taxes and tax filers. But what it did is to say if you inherited that same IRA from your father, you have 10 years from the date that you inherited, from the year in which they died, to fully deplete that account. So over the next 10 years, you can either do small chunks every year, or on that 10th year, you have to distribute all of the funds from that account. Now, if it's a Roth IRA, it's all non-taxable, but you remove it from that awesome tax shelter. If it's a traditional IRA, you're going to have one heck of a tax bill. So it's something that, I understand why the IRS did it. They got to get more money from these things. There's so much money in these tax deferred accounts they haven't touched. They have to get revenues, but it's not something that I think benefits really any of our clients or any retirement planners out there, is to say that you have to deplete these accounts in 10 years. So there were some changes, but you do get rid of the penalty in a beneficiary IRA for distributions.
Wow. Very good question, Bo. Thank you. No, I was going to ask you, Alex, can I take me through, I know a lot of my investors are reaching your company, and I'm so proud, Scott and you, and your whole company, how big it is, and what entails. If somebody wants to work with you guys, how does it work?
Oh, it's a really easy process, and that's part of back to Bo's question of, how it works with people, educating people. We try to make it a very hands-on process, so that way people that do come in can be those people that can go out and educate people. But essentially, you open the account, it's just a little bit of paperwork, and then we assign you to a dedicated representative that goes through and goes, from moving the funds over to actually getting the deal funded, is your single point of contact. That's what I actually started doing back in 2012, was working with clients on a one-on-one basis to actually do deals, structure them correctly, fund them. But it's just that process. It's about 3 steps. Open the account, identify the deal, and then we fund it. And then from there, we take care of the bookkeeping and record keeping.
You do take care of that. I see. Now you are custodian. Are you like Pensco and Entrust and Equity Trust or IRA Trust? Are you similar kind of company, or are you different?
I mean, the product that you're going to get from any of those of our competitors is relatively the same. You can self-direct your IRA, you can invest into a syndication. None of that functionally changes. Really, what you see the difference in between companies is customer service. That's really the only thing that can change. They can let you invest in real estate just like we can. But it boils down to the customer experience of having that direct line of contact, being able to get someone on the phone. A lot of those places use phone banks, and not to disparage them. They've done phenomenally well. I hope that one day we can get to the size and scale our product to the size of a Pensco or an Equity Trust. That would be amazing for all of our employees involved. But that's kind of it. It's just we focus on the customer. We're a very customer-centric company, so we want to make sure that instead of just kind of turning through their investments, we educate them. We try to continually make the process easier for them and give them good lines of communication.
Awesome. I don't know if you are able to speak of fees or anything like that. It's up to you. But, if you want to share something to our audiences, yeah.
Absolutely. It's, we try to be very upfront with our fees. It's very, very simple. If you want to do an investment through your IRA, you have one of 2 choices. We can either bill you for the number of assets, which is just about $300 per year per asset. So if you do one syndication at $100,000 or $300,000 or $1 million, it's just a flat $295 per year for that investment. Now, if you're someone that likes to do a lot of smaller investments, instead of paying $295 for each one of those, we have a value, like a scaling value chart that'll just give you a flat fee for the amount of value you have in the account. And so we try to make it work as best as possible with clients. And then depending on what you're doing, again, to Bo's question with LLCs, some clients will structure stuff under LLCs or trusts to help, shield from a little bit of our fees, and we're happy to help with that as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, what's amazing too is that, for those of you that are listening or will be listening in the future, that, as I've gone to all these real estate events, and even the people that are just starting out, just set up their IRA, let's say, and maybe that's only got $2,000 or $3,000, they're just starting there. I've seen people where their IRA was in contract to purchase, a multifamily property, Vinney, for, maybe it was a 14-unit property. Mm-hmm. And then what they've done is they've just assigned the contract. The IRA assigned the contract, and then their $2,000 that they started with became a $50,000 or $100,000 assignment fee. Went back in tax-free or tax-deferred into their. So the idea is get started even if you only have $1,000 to open your account, right? Like that's the whole thing. And then you can do selectively. You can do these big deals, right? Like, what if you were able to take $1,000 and make it into 50 or 25,000, right? And then eventually you can then, have some working capital to put into some, your deals are 100,000 plus. I mean, not everybody's got $100,000 to start with, but that's some encouragement for people that, are just getting started.
Yeah. So to speak to that, I've seen a couple things, and I can, obviously kind of round numbers and protect identities. But some of the cooler things that I've seen with regard to large growth on a lot of deals with small amounts of money initially were things like options and wholesaling. People will get something under contract. The one particular individual that I'm thinking of was doing single family homes. So it wasn't larger apartment buildings, but the idea can certainly translate to that. But he was actually doing it through an education savings account, an ESA, which is another kind of account we offer for his children to help pay for expenses. And throughout, I want to say the process of about 4 years, I worked with him. And then at the culmination of it, he had enough to pay for all of their college well over several times. I think when I stopped managing the account, he had gone from somewhere like $15,000 to $225,000 or $300,000 in like 5 years of just, and even though he had plenty of money to even do like equity participation notes or syndications, he just kept hammering on those $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 deals of turning and flipping contracts and made a killing. Obviously, he educated himself and he knew what he was doing, and that's not for everyone per se, but he hit it out of the park with that one.
Yeah.
Excellent, Alex. I'm so glad. Look at that. Somebody is saying muscles there. I love that. Thank you so much. I know that's my little thing. I just before the show got into the studio. Well, my home is my studio, my office, everything, and really excited. I hope, I know at the peak we had about 21 people, I think, watching us. Please go ahead and ask us any questions. I know we are asking fabulous questions of Alex, and he's giving us wonderful, ideas and so forth. So I would like to say, Alex, in the COVID, how that has helped or hurt your business, and what are some new laws that have come about in the retirement side of the business?
Yeah, great question, Vinney. And there certainly have been. Most people are familiar with the enhanced $600 unemployment benefits that have come out. That was all under the umbrella, and the $1,200 direct payments to individuals were all under a piece of legislation called the CARES Act. Yeah. Now that has have specific ramifications for your IRAs and 401ks. If you were deemed, if you self-certify that you had any type of hardship from COVID, and they intentionally leave that very ambiguous for the purpose of making sure that they don't exclude anyone that had something they didn't think of. But you can take up to $100,000 out of a 401k penalty-free as a hardship distribution. And they also have allowed for you to take a 3-year rollover period for any funds taken out of an IRA without a penalty. So you can take unlimited funds out of the IRA, and you have 3 years to roll that back in. You have $100,000 you can take out of a 401k. The only thing is that I would, if you are doing that, I can't stress this enough, is that the guidance from the IRS right now is very lacking, I'll say, because what they're saying right now is that you can roll those funds back in, not pay any taxes. But what they're telling you is that you either claim a third of that money every year as taxable income and pay the taxes, or you pay it all in 1 year. So if you took $100,000 out, they're saying that, let's call it a 20% tax bracket. You kick out 20 grand to the IRS in taxes, and then if you roll it back into an account after 3 years, you'd have to amend 3 years of tax returns to claw that money back.
Wow.
I would highly anticipate they're going to update this. That seems like a huge burden to people.
Mm-hmm.
So just for the listeners out there, whether it's now or in the future, if you are planning on utilizing that, check with a CPA first. It is not as straightforward as the government would like you to think. So really do look at that. And as far as business goes, it took some getting used to in the beginning. Right around the March, April, it was, everyone was trying to figure out what was going on, how to operate our business. But we really settled into it. We have rotating teams in our office. We've moved some people to work from home, more on a permanent basis, and it's going great right now. We've really kind of turned the corner with our business back to kind of what we were used to. We're still reaching people, getting out there and doing it, and it was weird to say the least to transition a very tight knit office, that we're all used to seeing each other every day and going to whatever this is. But it brings up a question that I've had that I like to ask a lot of people in the multifamily space, and I'll put this to Bo and you.
Sure.
Is that one thing that I imagine will happen, and at least in the near future, is that we've seen such a adoption of work from home for people. Really the benefits of the decreased overhead for employers and a lot of things. But one thing I see a big issue in the commercial real estate space is that you're going to see a lot of companies that are going to need to or just want to downsize their office overhead. If they don't need to have these people in there, what's going to happen to some of these places that are just cubicle farms? Have you seen any issues with people that are invested in stuff like that or larger commercial buildings? What are your thoughts on that? Where might that go?
I would love to kind of tackle it. Let's go to 2007 and 8. Actually, that's when I got started. I was having single family homes all over USA and things like that. I was a motivational speaker, and we said, what, we want to go into multifamily when I became broker. And I came to know Bo about 3 years back, but Bo also has been in that industry, in the real estate industry. But what happened at that time, Alex, was shopping centers dropped like crazy. There was foreclosures all around, right? Industrial hospitality got hurt very badly. I'm just taking us back there, right? With all the derivatives and, of course, a big fall of single family homes. As you all know, a lot of communities totally got wiped out because of the submerged, mortgages and all. But multifamily, again, that's the field I chose back then, multifamily, because I just felt like people will need, shelter over their head. That is in every economic situation. And that's what I find right now. Maybe Bo can also expand on it. Right now, we are seeing probably housing is not going to go down that much, but the retail space and the office space, there'll be big glut coming up. Shopping centers, oh my gosh, with so many businesses closing and restaurants not opening and a lot of other businesses, that's going to be again downward trend in the pricing. The NOIs are going to decrease. A lot of delinquencies are happening right now. A lot of toxic on the rent rolls of every commercial building right now, where people are not able to make ends meet and everything. So there is a big wave coming, so as to speak, where all these commercial space will be up for, I don't know, I should say up for grabs, but there'll be other ways to convert them. Maybe Bo can expand on it into more residential, or I'm even thinking that apartments that I don't build them, right from scratch. I've been buying them already built. But I think the new wave for the next 10, 20, 30 years is going to be 2-bedroom and an office, 1 bedroom and an office, because working from home, not getting on the freeway for 2 hours to get to the space and then be really, very, very stressed out, and then give your productivity and then get in the car and come back home again. Those days will be lesser and lesser and lesser. And what we have found also with the jobs which don't need too much contact, I think they can be done much better, from the home office, along with the kids at home. Productivity is still there in the engineering sector and even the medical profession, as you know, they're able to do actually online visits. I mean, it's amazing how doctors can visit almost 70 people sitting in their office, and they're able to do all that. And again, online, degrees you can get now, right? Online from Harvard and online from Stanford and everything. That's going to really make a big, big difference in people's thinking. Hey, why do I need to spend $70,000? I know there is interaction and everything with the students, but I think all those things are coming. To say the summary, how I feel, it's going to change the way we live, the way we interact and how we work. And I think our lives will have more time if we are not having downtime and travel time and stress time. The roads will be much cleaner, and emission of the smoke will be less, consumption of the oil, and a lot of repercussions are coming. But would there be a glut? Bo, I'll drop you there. What do you think, Bud, over there?
I tend to agree. People need a place to live. So I think housing, as far as single family and multifamily, will stay. There might be, you're seeing signs of some stress, obviously, in more of the lower end markets, lower economic areas, because obviously they're going to be hit first. Whereas most of the A and B properties, they're high paying jobs where most of them are using technology. So they're working from home successfully. My brother, for example, is a financial service guy, and he works for a large mutual fund company, and they're having their best. People are parking billions and billions of dollars with this company, right? Because, people don't know what to do with their money. So, he's on cloud nine, because he's like, yeah, I'm staying at home. And he was getting chubby. He was stressed out. And my point was, he was stressed out. Now he's got one of those bikes, the pedalone bikes.
Yeah.
And he's like working out every day. I've never seen him more happy. And I think for guys like him, this is perfect for him. So, there's going to be a lot of pain. There has to be, with so much in the retail world and so much shift going on. But I agree with Vinney. You're going to see emerging markets such as these ghost kitchens, right? People are going to there's going to be, instead of a million restaurants, there's going to be a ghost kitchen, commercial kitchen with 12 or 13 restaurants. And you could probably eat inside, but there's also going to have, grub hubs and things. You're already seeing them invest. And then a lot of these, look at like 24-Hour Fitness, which is a huge gym franchise on the West Coast. I think they're filing BK, and they're shutting down a bunch of places, right? So you're seeing shifts like that happen. You're seeing the retails going under. Seeing small businesses get hit. So it's going to be definitely pain, but out of pain always comes some kind of emergence of new opportunities. And so I think, we have to think positive, and we know the population is growing. People are going to need places to live. People are going to need assisted living facilities. People are going to be relocating from the cities to going and saying, hey, I want to go live in Florida where I can live by the beach and I'm not on top of everybody, right? So if you're building and developing the right products, I think it's a booming market, and people need that. So I think in the interim time, though, there's going to be pain. I'm just not sure as how much pain, but I do think that some of the reports I've seen, that there's a devastation of small business and restaurants and even big franchises that are happening. So I don't know what it's going to look like in a year from now. Maybe a year from now we're going to go, oh, it wasn't as bad as we thought, or maybe it just, I guess living through 2007 and 8 where I got devastated, but at the same time I didn't have the same education I have now. I was in my 20s. I didn't understand, market cycles. But I would say that, because I lived through that, it's made me a little bit more nervous during market cycles, just to be cautious, right? To have reserves in your bank, right? And to have, because at the blink of an eye, a lot of companies go under and you don't have a job anymore for these W-2 employees. So, multiple streams of income and working hard is, I think, the way to get out of this situation.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. It's just something I've just anecdotally seen. A lot of I haven't really seen too many commercial property investments come through the pipeline, and that was kind of tapering off. I mean, they're more expensive, and we just didn't see a ton of them. But I don't think I've seen any really this year that have come through the pipeline. It's been multifamily. Obviously you said people need a place to live. We've seen plenty of clients using their IRAs into apartment buildings and things like that. And it'd be interesting to see how many of these larger like office farm type places are going to be converted, or if they will be converted into multifamily housing. You got plenty of space for it, so it seems like maybe something that could transition in the future.
You're right, Alex. And again, to be truthful, we bought 2 deals last year, 52 million and 35 million, and we just got one in the works now, 35 million, because of the COVID. It has really given us a little lull, how to do the due diligence, how to get out there, how to be able to really, and not only that, because of the toxic, I call it toxic, rent rolls, with the delinquencies and this, with the moratorium on the evictions, all that has kind of slowed down, purchases and things like that. You're right. And, again, assisted living, Bob brought it up. I mean, in the last 4 months, we have flourished like crazy in the assisted living space for the seniors, in the luxury space, because we do ground up building. And that's a non-working class because they're hired. So that's my part. This has really taken off. And we are doing ground up constructions of assisted living and so on. So we are very, very bullish on that one. And also because of the demographical shift that's happening in USA and around the world, 10,000, we say that so many times, 10,000 of the baby boomers are turning 65 every night in USA, 10,000 of them. So we have 54.6 million actually out of the 365 million right now are in the baby boomer state, which are turning 65, and then it will be 100 million, oh my gosh, in the next 30 years. So the demographical shift, if we stay at 400 million, I'm just thinking out loud, I don't know if we'll get there. We were like in many years back, I came from India 40 years back, we were 320 million, now we are 365 in 40 years. So, population of America doesn't go, that drastically like India, 1.4 billion, but the thing is, the key thing I find is that in 30 years, let's say 30 years, 40 years, if we are at 400 million and 100 million of us are 65 plus, and in 85 will be 20 million, 85 plus. So older generation is going to be populating, USA. So there is a huge demand and huge need for senior living, right? In different spaces like that. No, it's been such a pleasure to have you, Alex. It's been tremendous. I hope our audience, even though they've been pretty quiet, I know a lot of time we get a lot of our audience to say where they're from and they ask some questions and so on, but you have dropped so many great nuggets for us, and we thank you. And how can people reach you?
Sure. Yeah. No. If anyone wants to get a hold of me, you can give me a call at 727-754-9954, or my email is aperny@advantaira.com, or just go to advantaira.com, and there's a lot of great information on there. We'll get you to the right person and get your questions answered. But Bo and Vinney, thank you very much for having me on today. If we're running up on time, the ALF stuff is really cool. We've seen a lot of clients come in and do assisted living, and you're absolutely correct that it's just a matter of time until we need a boom amount of bed space and housing for senior care. So that'll be another interesting one to watch.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Alex. And Bo, I wanted to give you good news, buddy. We got refinanced our Hilton Garden Inn during COVID. During COVID, we just got the acceptance on it yesterday. And, I want to thank you. I know you were also helping us there with Anshu and Ash, my buddies. And we are 100% occupied during COVID in the hotel. So this is very good. And the good part was it's something to do with the, of course, medical staff and all. They chose our hotel out of any place to be bringing their whole staff
Oh, wow.
and everything for the next 3 months or something, I heard. So we are very, very excited about it. And then we are going to be buying more in the hospitality range because we believe in it, even though we have had some really downturn in that market with the no travels happening and so forth like that. But assisted living, thank you, Alex. Yeah, I'm so fired up about that. Actually, I'm starting another company in assisted living, even managing assisted living after they are built by us, A+ class. And then now we'll be purchasing them, my partner and I, and running them rather than selling them to the REITs, because they've been buying it from us and they try to even give us a contract on the property, even if it's 50% built. Can you believe it? Because they want to lock it in, the kind of quality we are putting. Anyway, but, thank you again for your time. Bo, any last comments, buddy? Yeah.
Oh, nope. It was great. I love learning about IRAs and really appreciate your time. And I just goes to show you guys out there that are wanting to, purchase property or invest, that there's options for you. And I'm like I said, it's another Friday. I'm happy for Friday and looking forward. Got a lot of work to do today. Fridays are always busy, even though they shouldn't be, but they're usually
Work? Come on, what work? People ask me, Vinney, do you work? I said, no, I never worked in my life. I enjoy. I just have fun. And that's what it's all about, Hey, no, thank you so much. God bless you all. Everybody, please chime in. This is Vinney and Bo show. We come live to you at 9:30 Friday. Put your notifications on. Give us some comments below. Ask us some questions. We would love to answer your questions in this show. It's about getting your business to the next level, talking about loans, talking about syndication, talking about commercial real estate, you name it. I mean, we have the gamut, and we love to bring the specialty, a specialist like Alex to you so that they can drop some great nuggets, to help each other. And thank you, Alex, and you have a blessed day. We'll see you next week. Oh, next time, not next week.
All right, Shaw. Thanks again very much for having me on. And for everyone out there, if you have any questions, let me know. I am always happy to help. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And God bless everybody. And Bo, see you next week, buddy.
See you, buddy.
See you next